Whenever we're not alone or I'm on the phone and I ask you something, doesn't matter what it is, you always say, I'm right on top of that, Rose. Okay? Okay. Not at all. We'll messenger them right over. Sue Ellen, how are the cost estimates for the superintendent coming? He needs them this afternoon.
I'm right on top of that, Rose.
I'm right on top of that, Rose. I probably say this in my head or out loud to people who probably have no idea what I'm talking about, like twice a week, 3 times a week, sometimes like 10 times a week.
I say that out loud.
Yeah. It's good to say out loud. Most people have no idea because now we're too old. But if you have made it here, welcome back to the VHS Club. And welcome to the Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Club episode. We refuse to accept that there is a remake happening,
Wait. Don't tell Mom the Babysitter's dead, not Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter Club.
Oh, wow. You know what? It's been a day. It's not even been a day. You know what? It really hasn't been. I stayed up so here is the most 80s/90s thing that I can tell you to explain why I just said that. I stayed up too late last night setting up the VCR so that I could play Party Mania, the VHS game. I'm not even joking. If you go over to my Instagram account, this is literally what I spent my time doing. So I feel like that's a good reason for me to have mixed together 2 iconic 90s things. Don't Tell
Both
Mom the
80s,
Babysitter's
90s.
Dead and the Babysitter's Club.
Books. Slash TV series, both
TV
in the 90s and the nows. Both
welcome
excellent.
to the Babysitter episode. What I was going to
This
say
one's
is
dead, though.
This one's dead, though. What I was going to say is that we are not talking about the remake. So if you're hanging with us in the live studio audience, or you're catching this later, and you're really excited about the remake, I'm so happy for you, but I refuse to accept that that's a thing, so I'm just not going to address it. So just welcome back to 1991. We're going to hang out with the OG only movie that is this topic. All right. Sorry, Nat. That's my intro. You're welcome. I'm really good at this. I do it all the time.
That was wild.
It's a ride. It's a ride, everyone.
Sorry. Oh, you triggered my cough.
It's a ride, everyone. Well, actually, and I should say, while you're coughing and laughing, that huge thank you to my friend Dan, who's hanging out in the live studio audience. And if you're listening, you can't see this, but Dan got me a I Love the 80s t-shirt that I am proudly wearing. So huge thanks to Dan, who is just super nerdy and excited about this movie as well. So and Dan also will not watch the remake. So welcome to our people. Welcome to our live studio audience. We have 2 of our favorite people hanging out with us so far tonight. We have Josh and Dan here. So it's going to be a ride. Buckle up, everyone. Buckle up.
So let's go through a quick synopsis of the plot, because it's ridiculous. Like why are they even remaking it? Because it should not be greenlit, period. Okay. So this single mother who has an evil divorced ex.
5 children, you guys. Single mother of 5 children.
She's in her mid-30s, okay? The mother is in her mid-30s.
Is she actually supposed to be in her mid-30s?
Yes, she's 37 exactly.
She's got a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And in her 30s, she had these.
37 exactly.
37. Wow. All right. Hey, who am I to judge?
Well,
She looks haggard,
she
justifiably,
like
for 37.
But
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I currently today look younger than that 37-year-old, and I'm not 37, so
Yeah.
older. But she seems to have had a rough life.
She's
But
had a
that
rough go.
aside, she has this new rich boyfriend. They're going to Australia for the summer. So the kids are
Wait, we need to pause here for a second, okay? This woman
2 months.
This woman is 37. She's a single mother of 5, and she decides to go literally as far away as she can get from the you can't even easily call your kids when you're in Australia. Like she's
in the movie when she does call the kids and it's like early evening, I'm like, she's up at 3 a.m. to call her children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were no text messages or emails, so she would have had to call. It's just this is 1991. She was like, I'm gonna go to Australia for 2 months. I have a helpful partner, and I can't imagine being like, well, I'm off to Australia for a couple months. This will sort itself out. Let's see you guys later. Yeah.
So she goes off to Australia for the summer. She leaves the kids at home with an envelope full of emergency contacts, all sorts of information.
And cash.
Loads of cash. So cash not only for groceries and for treats and for outings, but also expenses for the kids, allowance for the kids. Which again, I'm like, so they're not middle class, these people. They're rich. Okay, so even as a single mother, she leaves them with a babysitter who's about 100 years old, and clearly the mother has not interviewed the babysitter.
No,
because she knows nothing about this woman.
She's never met this woman.
Once she sees this woman in person, she's like, sees how old she is. She's like, are you sure you can take care of 5 kids? I'm reminding you there are 5 children. And she's like, no problem, dearie. The second the mom leaves town, we find out that the babysitter is an absolute Stalinistic tyrant. Sure. And then she drops dead.
Yeah.
In her sleep, granted.
Yeah.
The kids, this is the fun part, decide instead of calling mom or dad or any of the grown-up friends in our neighborhood, we're going to put her in an old steam trunk and bring her to a mortuary.
I mean, a better move than dropping her off at the hospital. Initially I was like, oh, right, they bring her to the hospital. I was like, oh no, just the mortuary. No, just straight. And to make it even better, not only do they do that, they drop her off outside a creepy looking old mansion-y mortuary, but they write on the outside of the truck,
nice old lady died of natural causes. And I was just like, this is everything. I forgot that part, and it was so wonderful to see. So we think, how are these children going to get away with it? Because clearly the police will investigate.
Yeah.
No. So as they go the next morning after dropping the body off, they go the next day to go pick up some groceries because they're completely out of food, to realize the envelope with all of the emergency contacts and cash is empty. There's no cash. So they peel back to the house in the dead woman's car, by the way. And they search all over and there's no cash. It must have been on the body. There's nothing they can do about it. So they decide to flip a pizza box instead of a coin to see who's going to go to work, the 17-year-old or the 16-year-old?
No, he's 15-year-old? 15, which he does not. I mean, the actor was not younger than Christina Applegate. He was 20 months older. And for most of the movie, I'm like, but he's the older brother, right? Apparently he's supposed to be 2 years younger than her.
So she ends up having to go to work, and he's supposed to stay home and take care of the kids because, again, there's 3 younger siblings.
Younger kids, yeah.
So it's 16 or 17, 15,
yeah, I only know the ages of the two. 10,
12,
10,
8, and 7, maybe? 6. Anyway, they're young. So she goes to work. She starts working at a fast food restaurant. It's abysmal. The boss is super creepy. She quits the job, rightfully so. and decides to doctor a resume to make up her resume to seem like she has all these accomplishments, gets hired at a fashion designers, but they design
They're like the
clothes.
bottom of they're like a
Yeah, they design
uniform
like
design uniform
school
fashion company.
uniforms,
Yeah.
fast food restaurant uniforms, nursing uniforms, etc.
Yeah.
She ends up surpassing, as she was supposed to apply to get a receptionist job, she ends up getting an executive assistant job
Yeah.
because she just haphazardly bumps into the boss who is looking for the executive assistant. The woman reads her CV and it's literally unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman's like, "You're so overqualified to be a receptionist. I'll hire you as my executive assistant." So she gets this job. She realizes she's not going to get paid on day one because there's that whole 2 weeks withheld
twice a month, I believe. Yeah.
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 And when you start a new job, you don't get paid right away. So she doesn't realize this yet because she's a high school kid. She doesn't know anything about real life. But she is very witty. She manages to figure her way out around the office, mostly using office politics and observation to sort of muddle her way through. And then she learns about petty cash, which she borrows the petty cash to sort of sustain her family until she gets her paycheck, and she's planning to pay it all back. A little snafu, her younger siblings decide to also borrow some of the petty cash. And because she, for whatever reason, brought the whole petty cash box home with her,
that I know that they're I know that we
instead
should
of
be
just
commenting on
sneaking out the
holes.
little bit that she wanted.
Yeah, exactly. She brings home must be over $3,000 because they take $3,000
Yeah.
from her. Yeah.
Yeah. It was $3,030.
Yeah.
Anyways, and the kids overspend buying. The middle brother Zach buys a diamond ring for his girlfriend, who ends up dumping him immediately after. The youngest ends up buying a whole home stereo surround sound system.
Mm-hmm.
So they're short on cash. And then she goes back into work the next day after reading her family the riot act, and she's told they're probably going to get fired because they're losing their biggest client, and the whole business is going to go under.
Turns out students don't want to wear uniforms.
Yes, high school
What are they
students
gonna
don't want to
do?
wear school uniforms.
Yeah.
Katie would know more about that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. So, so Rose, who happens to actually have a very good eye for styling, she does put herself together very well with her mom's clothes. She tries on a couple outfits, decides they're awful because they are for her age especially, but she mixes and matches pieces and styles herself amazingly, which helps her get this job.
Mm-hmm.
So she uses that skill set and ends up saving the company by redesigning and restyling the uniforms, and convinces her boss to host all of the sort of business partners and potential clients at her home, and does this really cute fashion show using all of her friends and her family to help coordinate it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it goes awry right at the end because her love interest / maybe ex-boyfriend comes in on a loudspeaker to do the very John Cusackian grand
Win her
gesture,
back
which
moment. Yeah.
screws up the whole fashion show. And then her mom also happens to get home from Australia, and who are all these people in my house? Get them out. I just traveled 36 hours.
Yeah.
It all ends up working out in the end, though they don't really mention the babysitter being dead at all to any adult in this movie, though it does work out in their favor because we do see at one point I guess it seems like the two gravediggers or morticians, whoever they are, that work at this funeral home, find all the cash that the mom left, which must be thousands of dollars, it seems. And they're like, "Oh, this old lady, left us all this cash. We'll bury her without questions, so that way we can keep the money and go off to Vegas."
Mm-hmm.
And that's the movie. Kids get away with
Everything.
yeah. I mean, Rose does pull it off, but she's got to be a bit of a high-functioning sociopath to be to not only think it's okay, but to convince her whole family, her other 4 siblings, that we'll just dump the body I will lie through my teeth, get like a $40,000 a year job,
Mhm.
and we'll just
Teenagers.
sort it all out. I'm
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
I mean, she is very clever and very smart, and it's very funny and adorable little hijinks they get into. But if you think about the plot as an adult, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, so the immediate questions, other than what I pointed out earlier. So the first thing is like, wow, like this mom is just like going to Australia for 2 months. That feels like a lot for the amount of kids that you have. Like, that just feels irresponsible, even if like you have a boyfriend that's covering all the costs, which I suppose like explains like how she's doing this really expensive trip. But then, as you said, they seem to be like a pretty well-off family, but then also their house is a complete
Shambles.
disaster. Like there would be
I
definite
kind of
rats.
get it.
Like there's like
I kind of
like,
get it because she's a single mom and the kids don't really
the
get
kids
it,
are out of
which is
control and don't respect her and what like there's
yeah.
there it's
Well,
a
I
mess.
mean, they're teenagers, and you know,
There's like more though. Like if you actually like think about it, so like the house is like a complete disaster. Like it's like at a hoarding level bad. Like
she's
like every
yelling at the
space.
kids constantly to
She's
clean
yelling at
up,
the
and
kids
they just are
constantly.
not listening to
They're
her.
not
at
listening
all.
to her at all. And then like she catches like one of the kids stealing from her purse and is like, put that back. Like, ha ha ha. And it's like, okay, this like red flags.
But the thing is, she doesn't actually discipline the kid for
No.
stealing the money. She's
No.
like, well, you should just ask first. And he's like, well, can I have $20? And she's like, sure. What?
Yeah, exactly.
You just caught him stealing.
So those are all like moments. And then obviously like the entire babysitter is like both like
she didn't
like,
interview the babysitter.
the plot point,
like, she
but
hasn't
also
met
like
her before.
yeah, she never met the babysitter, which is weird. And then I have questions about like the money. Like, so she gives all this money over to the babysitter. I assume that she's also paying the babysitter. So the babysitter has like some like large amount of money, both a mix of what she has for the 2 months as well as
The
her
kids,
payment.
but
like why
the allowance, the bills.
She like
automatic payment, by the way, like automatic, like paying your bills automatically was not a thing then. You had to write a check.
There was
So
no
it's like,
there was
that's
no
also
like
crazy.
give her a credit card or give her a whole bunch
No.
of checks. Like this
No.
was clearly the easiest way. But I was like, okay, so she dies like presumably like in her sleep. She's like in a chair, like sitting up sleeping like in her room and then dies. But I was like, so did she like have like all of the cash just like stuffed in her bra? Like where what how does she
Or
have
in
all
her
the cash
pocket? Because it's out of the
on her?
envelope.
'Cause
Like
it's
the
out
woman,
of the envelope. Yeah.
she very clearly, I mean, she kind of came off across as this like totalitarian, right? Like this sort of dictator.
I guess maybe she had it in her purse and they threw like her purse in the bag. Like I was just like, but they didn't want. We assume that they didn't.
She
want anyone
obviously
to ID
didn't trust
her.
the kids.
Yeah, so it's like, so I was like, did she just like shove a whole bunch of cash before she went to bed, like in her?
Wait, you're thinking like an adult.
Yeah,
they didn't want her to be ID'd. These kids didn't think of that at all.
True,
like these kids should have been facing several felony charges. Okay, like possibly suspicious death, like interfering with a body, which is a felony charge. Like it's moving of a body. Like
she was really mean. Okay, so
she was really mean. Which I have to say, I do love the middle sister. Like, she's like obviously very much a tomboy and very like rough and tough and like burning ants with a magnifying glass and whatever. And this granny babysitter puts her in this fancy dress with this huge pink bow, and like when she walks by her, she just flips her off. Like,
I remember
I like that vibe.
Back when I first saw this, and then certainly like it gave me, I couldn't help but smile at that scene, and then also at the scene where they all go into like complain about how horrible the babysitter is before they realize she's dead, and Melissa, that same character, comes in and is like, she made us wake up at the butt crack of dawn, and like for the longest time this is still something that I say. I'm like, we're get up at the butt crack of dawn. Like that was like the best possible line. That, and I right on top of it, Rose, very high up on my list of amazing quotes. I love so those, I think actually those are probably the majority of the plot holes, which all things considered is kind of impressive actually for such a very bizarre like storyline. I do like what I really, really enjoy actually about this movie is so you have this character that you actually kind of skipped over a little bit, but we should talk about is, so you have this character of
Brian.
the receptionist, well, and Brian, but
Oh,
you
yes.
have the character of the receptionist who's Brian's
His older sister.
and
Yeah.
Brian is Sue Ellen, the main character's like quasi boyfriend that she meets when she starts her fast food job. So she ends up she basically inadvertently steals the executive administrative assistant job from this woman who is the receptionist. And I love this character because I think she plays it so well. And I think she's just so fantastic. And because she starts off, she's at like the reception desk and she's clearly just having like a shit day. Like everything's going wrong. There's all these people applying for the reception position.
She has a headset on and she's like, hold please, hold please.
Yeah, she's totally type A. She's trying her best. Like, and she's trying desperately to get this job that like clearly she's qualified for. Like
she's earned.
She's clearly earned. She's like done this shit reception job. So she's like waiting to get in. And I love the moment where Sue Ellen like comes up to hand in her resume and she at first tries to like not so subtly be like, you need to be down where personnel is. Like she like says into whoever she's talking to on the headset, like, it's been crazy today. Like all of these stupid candidates keep coming up and like applying here at the reception when they need to be down in like wink, wink personnel. And Sue Ellen like doesn't get
where
it
there's
at all.
a giant sign that says personnel.
And so then she just directly tells her that, which in like the best possible way. But what I was gonna say is that I love, so she's like mean from the very start. She's kind of like the bad guy, quote unquote. Other than the babysitter, she's the bad guy in this movie. But so she and her sidekick David Duchovny, which warms my heart, work the entire movie to try to figure out like how like why this like, you know, young hotshot has like taken her job and like what her secret is, because she's obviously hiding something. And then they finally figure out that she's 17. They find her driver's license, they figure out she's 17, and they like photocopy the driver's license, which would have been hard in the 90s, early 90s.
Could we pause for a moment? Who's working in personnel, who's working in personnel and was like, this 17-year-old is getting 40K a year. That makes sense. Like,
well, they allude to the fact that they like bypass that, but then you're right, they obviously had to pay her somehow because she gets her paycheck. Like, well,
they have her driver's license, so she had to give.
No, she
ID.
left her wallet. She left her wallet in the office, so that's how they find her driver's license.
Well, I mean,
but you were absolutely right. They would have had
personnel would have had
her.
to have her like social insurance to give her issue her a check. Right?
There's our third hole. Yeah.
Also for tax. Anyways. I was like,
anyway, I love
drop the ball.
I love the fact that they're like, yes, we found this thing that's gonna like get this girl, and they go through all the effort of 1991 photocopying her driver's license, which would have been tricky, and then they drive to this party to do this like big reveal of this thing, and so the big reveal goes horribly wrong, right? So they like at first she like takes it to the boss, and the boss is like, stop being so petty and ridiculous, like just shoots her down, doesn't believe her completely.
It's like, well, whatever, she's good at the job and you're just petty.
Well, no, first doesn't at all believe her and accuses her of being like a liar and petty and terrible. And then like the mom shows up and the boyfriend shows up and everything goes like, clearly she is 17, and she like admits to it and apologizes. And even then the boss is like, well, she still really nailed it. So like it's totally fine.
I mean, she did.
And she did. So it's like, on one hand, you're like, wow, like this boss, you know, like all the thumbs up for this boss. Like she's like,
I mean, Rose offered
she's a great
her
mentor. Like she's like, even afterwards, she's still like all in. But to be that woman, to be like killing yourself for this job and be like, haha, I proved it, and for everyone to be like, nah, we preferred the 17-year-old actually. Like that.
I mean, she was pretty nasty. She reminds me, like, I was gonna say a more modern parallel would be the executive assistant in, what was that movie? It was terrible. The Devil Wears Prada. Go with me on the fact that it's terrible. All of the main characters' friends were complete shitheads and hated her.
Yeah.
So if you rewatch the movie and realize just how unsupportive her friends and family are, the movie's shit. Anyways, but she's very much that, like,
She's totally vapid. She is the definition
Like
of the word
she's the
vapid.
stuck up,
Yeah.
she's underhanded, she's
But she plays it
conniving.
so well, and the
Oh
fact that
god,
she like
yes.
doesn't win is both incredible and also heartbreaking if you look at it from her perspective. You're like,
But
come
the thing
on.
is, she didn't deserve the job in the
She
first
didn't
place
deserve the
because
job,
then we
yeah.
meet another office assistant
Yes, you're
who
right.
knows everything.
Yeah.
She's on top of everything. She's a computer whiz. She's on top of all the biweekly reports. And she incidentally provides herself to Sue Ellen to be like, well, if you need any help with that, I love doing that kind of work. So just let me do it for you. And Sue Ellen's like, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
and so Sue Ellen does have this way where she very cleverly takes advantage of the people in the office because they offer it to her.
Yeah.
Like sort of, and but she is also taking advantage of them. But anyways, so you realize when Rose, the boss, gets the reports back, and she's like, "Oh my god, these are perfect! It's never been as good as this. Like we're so aligned." But you see that it's very much that other woman.
Yeah, that other woman should have had
So
the
it's
role.
like the
Yeah.
receptionist never should have had the job before. In my mind, the
Yeah.
other girl got the job in the end.
Yeah, I hope so. She's like nice all the way through. Like she even
Yeah.
comes in when she's sick to be able to like drop off the reports that she knows are like super important. She's absolutely fantastic. And it's like again, like in opposite of what you just said about the other movie, that like the lot of positives in this movie, right? Like
Yes,
actually like
everybody's very
lots of
supportive
like
in this movie.
positive messaging. I know that there's like obviously the characters that are like bad guys, like the smarmy jackass guy, and then obviously the receptionist. But if you look at like that coworker comes in, introduces herself, apologizes for like ducking in line at the fax machine, says that she was up for that role, and instead is like, I'm so happy that you got it. Like just is so encouraging and supportive all the way through. Even David Duchovny's character, who's supposed to be like kind of a like smarmy, he's got like his hair gelled back, he like looks kind of like the smarmy guy. He comes in and like demands something of Christina Applegate's character, and Sue Ellen replies back like some like very like wonderful response for a 17-year-old. She just stands up for herself. She's like, no, I'm the
iconic like boss
totally.
bitch lady, you know? Like, she
Iconic
puts him in
bitch.
his place and he's like, yeah, you're right.
But yeah, he's like, oh yeah, all right, sure. Like, and like he becomes kind of like the sidekick to the bad guy later, but he doesn't make some jackass response. He just is like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'll come back later. I was like, wow,
I mean,
it
it did make sense because she's like, she was supposed to get reports from all of his people who are technically lower than her boss, right? So yeah.
There were like a bunch of like really positive moments in that. Like
I also love when the kids, so she kind of, at the beginning, we see she's kind of almost co-parenting the younger kids with her mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's checking in like, oh, well, how is Kenny's report card? And it's like, all D's, did you like get mad at him for that? And the mom's like, well, it's an improvement. How could I? And she's like, well, D's are still really shit. So you see, she kind of has a bit of a parenting role in their family dynamic. But being 16, she still doesn't really get what her mom's going through.
Yeah.
Kenny is a complete like stoner and, you know, sort of like fun time guy. And he doesn't really care about like anything that's happening around him as long as he has his munchies foods. And that's about it.
Yeah.
But when Sue Ellen starts to go to work and Kenny's stuck at home with the kids, he realizes when the youngest brother falls off the roof trying to readjust the satellite from his like super surround sound stereo system that he installed with his stolen money.
Yeah.
And the kid breaks his arm and he has to take him to the hospital. Like Kenny kind of grows up in that moment, and it's like the family dynamic sort of switches. So it's like Sue Ellen kind of gets into her mom's perspective, and Kenny gets into Sue Ellen's perspective.
Yeah.
And that's kind of this really, like, I really liked that sort of coming of age, like that sort of also realization of like the different family dynamic roles, like, because they all have a role in the family, but when they're learning about the other family dynamic roles and they come closer together. And I thought that was like really, really nice. And
realizing how like hard it is. So like they
Yeah.
have this really wonderful moment. I love Kenny's character. I think he's fantastic from start
He's
to, and I
obsessed
normally,
with Julia Childs and
yeah,
decides to become a baker and go to culinary school by
yeah.
the end of it. Love it.
I think he's incredible. Like his like fluffing the pillows and like ridiculous. I think he's just fantastic. But the moment, yeah, the moment I really agree with what you said, and I think like is really this very kind of iconic moment in this movie is when they have this complete fight, right? Like, so she gets home, and this is very stereotyped,
Very
but
late.
but I really
Yeah.
like it. She gets home late, and he's like clearly really upset, and he's like, you know, punching the pillows and like throwing things around. Like totally being like passive aggressive about the entire thing, and she's like, well, what are you upset about? And she's tired, she's had like this long day,
She's like, it
everything's
smells
gone
like you
wrong.
burnt something. He's like, well,
Yeah, he gets super upset, and so
if
it's
I had known when you would be home, maybe I would have planned my dinner better.
exactly, and it's very like
True.
it's very cliched. It's totally playing into like gender roles and stereotypes of like the stay-at-home mom versus like the working dad, but it's reversed,
feel
and
like-
they're kids, so it's
Yeah,
like
it's the
really
stereotype of stay-at-home parent.
yeah, but it like
Yeah.
it really turns all of it on its head, and it really like
Yeah.
well, what I mean by the gender role side of it is that it's I feel like
You're right.
and
Traditionally,
I'm
those
entering
are the
dangerous
roles, yeah.
zones, but I'm gonna say what I think, and if I'm wrong, then people can tell me. But I do think that I think it like women are more likely to be passive aggressive in those moments and just be
Yeah.
like think it in their head without saying it out loud. So like hitting pillows or like being like, well, I don't know why you're home so late, instead of saying, hey, I worked really hard on all of this. And it like, and he does get there and say that, but like it takes him a bit of just like this kind of like internal frustration. And whereas her response is very much like, what? Like I've been at work all day. I'm doing the best that I can. Like, why are you
What do
angry
you
at me?
expect from me?
Which is like, I feel like more of kind of the, again, like, and this is stereotyped, but traditionally
Traditionally, like-
response, right? So like,
Like in the 1950s, that's not the world we
Yeah.
live in anymore. And if you
Sure.
think we do,
yeah, I hope,
go see your doctor.
I hope none
Go
of you
see your
do, but
doctor.
but I think like I love that scene because I think it's the moment where they realize how hard it is. Like they
or
thought
how
that
hard
they-
it's been on their mom.
how hard it's been on their mom, how hard like that part of life is, how like
yeah,
you know,
that
like-
coming of age moment.
exactly. So I think it's really good. It's interesting. Dan says that he didn't like any of the guys in this movie. He found them to be needy man babies, which I think that they start off that way, but I do think that
Yeah.
there's like a decent amount of growth in.
Well, I
maybe-
think Brian,
maybe
the
not
love
Brian as much,
interest,
but yeah,
Brian he's very supportive, you know, and he takes her at face value, and he knows she's kind of holding some things back, which, you know, is pretending to be 25 and stealing the petty cash from work, but you know, other than fraud and embezzlement, so she's holding some things back, obviously,
Mm.
but you know, he's still trying to support her, trying to do fun things with her, bring
Mhm.
her out of her like
Shell,
I it's not really a shell, it's like her stress, like she's
Yeah.
keeping everything back because she's like trying to, she's a 16-year-old single mom of 4 children all of a sudden, you know,
True
like
story.
so yeah, so he's I kind of like him. I also love how, and this is gonna sound terrible, like back then Brian was like, he was very handsome, he was so cute, he was kind, he was like kind of like the ideal, you know, really like ideal guy for you to have a crush on.
Yeah.
I'm like, nowadays he doesn't have enough silicone injection and doesn't have 6-pack abs and doesn't weigh 90 pounds soaking wet.
I think he's adorable. He is exactly the kind
Yeah.
of boyfriend I would have wanted to have. At her age,
Exactly.
so.
I'm like, he's not as good looking as like how they would cast kids
Yeah, that's true.
nowadays,
That
but
is
like
true.
he was, but back then he was like super cute. I'm like, we need to bring back, you know, human looking people into movies and
And
television, please. And
He's
thank you
also
very
like
much.
making the most out of
Yeah.
out of an otherwise bad job. Like she gives this entire kind of rant about, she's like, they only give like, garbage, terrible jobs to teenagers. And he's sort of like, yeah, like, he's sort of
But-
just making the most out of it. He's trying to have the most fun that he can. He's like, he does nice things. Like he goes and drops off like clearly out of his way because he delivers fast food. It's like DoorDash, but before DoorDash, he delivers fast food around, but he goes out of his way supposedly to drop it off at his sister's office. So like
Yeah.
he says that he's like saving up for school. Like he's trying his best, and he's kind of just like a nice, he's just a nice guy. So, but yeah, I mean, there are bad guys in this one. There's like like,
David
rapey
Duchovny's
guy.
awful. What is it, Brandon or Blaine or whatever his name is? That was a reference to Pretty in Pink, guys. But he's like,
not
so
nearly as bad as the other guy though. So
no, but like the boss, like Rose, who is the boss,
yeah,
her, like not completely serious, but we have had the talk about cohabitating, boyfriend, who fools around on her, but she's trying to be like, maybe he'll choose me at the end of all of this.
Yeah,
he won't. Keeps hitting on Rose, and not Rose, Sue Ellen, and he makes the most lecherous, disgusting comments towards her. I can't even repeat them because yeah, he's gross. He's so gross.
But he played it
I can't.
well, and it's kind of nice.
I've written down the quotes if you want me to say them out loud. I shouldn't have to, because it's kind of this whole issue with adult men lusting after and desiring and expecting like teenage girls, or at least women half their age, to look like teenage girls.
Yeah, let's leave it there, because
that's it. I like, he's gross, and like he's meant to be gross. And what I love again about Sue Ellen is she picks up on it, not right away, but pretty damn fast. And she puts him in his place immediately. She's like a badass kid.
Yeah, she really
is.
Is.
Obviously very smart. Yeah. I really wanted to circle back to when she was briefly working at the fast food restaurant, because she had what I only got today rewatching this movie, this one-liner that I spat out my drink, because I was like, did she just say that?
Yeah, there's some good ones in this.
She did. Okay, so in Hollywood and anybody, please don't cancel us, okay? Because we're not actually going at any particular cult or anything, but she makes this comment. So the boss, the manager of the fast food restaurant, is manically happy and chipper. Put a smile on it, and don't forget, put a smile on your face. Like, he's insane. And she says, did he just finish reading Dietetics or something? Which is the Scientology, like, Bible.
I missed that watching this summer.
I like, spit take. I was like, holy shit, they just really dug it out at Scientology. Like, even then we knew it was a fucking cult, guys. Please don't cancel us. Don't put a hit on my family. Don't do all of those things that we all know that, anyways. But yeah, that line got me. Did he just finish, like he's clearly on speed or something. He's on some kind of upper, but she's like, did he just finish reading that stupid Scientology book?
Yeah, he's pretty crazy.
Dead. That was so funny.
Okay, so I have some fun facts about this movie, and the first one, I don't even know if it's an accurate fact or not. So, source IMDb was, and I'll drop that into the description once we release this episode.
Hey, IMDb is a great resource. It's been around for a very long time.
I know, so I'm hopeful that this is an actual fact, but there was a fact in IMDb trivia about this movie that said that when this movie was released on VHS, when it had its video release, they decided to host a contest where people needed to like answer trivia questions about the movie. And I guess the winner of the movie trivia contest got to keep the babysitter's car.
A 55 Buick.
Yeah.
Which, one of my favorite scenes in the movie,
like, best is contest prize ever. Like,
seriously, it's a gorgeous vintage car. Gorgeous, in pristine condition.
Yeah.
So this is the babysitter's car that they're driving around because, again, Sue Ellen is like, well, why not? It's a classic. It's beautiful. Like, which, you're driving around in a missing woman's car. Like, but that aside, it gets Grand Theft Auto'd, what's the word I'm looking for?
Stolen.
Hotwired and stolen from the, like, Chuck E. Cheese parking lot by 3 drag queens impeccably
Impeccably.
impersonating Liza Minnelli,
Mhm.
dead ringer. I
Yep.
could have like
Like, was
that's
it?
actually
I didn't
her.
actually see that in
And
my fact research, whether or not it
it's
was actually
Liza
her.
Minnelli, Marilyn Monroe, and Dolly Parton drag impersonators.
I
And
hope it
what
was
I
really them
love,
playing drag them. That would make me really happy.
no, it wasn't really them. It was
Oh, but
definitely
that would be
drag
so
them.
good.
But I mean,
Yeah.
because it looked like them, but younger than 91.
Yeah, fair.
And Marilyn was obviously dead.
Oh, fair. I'm like, was it them? Yeah.
And
Good
also
point.
Dolly Parton was like 6'5", so like, you know, Dolly Parton's not 6'5". But I mean, like, the first of all, who are those queens? They are legends. They are literally the best like celebrity impersonators I've seen for those
Also,
roles.
the kids'
Like,
response is fantastic because they like come out and they're like, "Hey, those queens are stealing our car! Stop, queens!" Like, which is just like,
and also the
makes it
language
so
that
much
Kenny
better.
uses.
Oh,
The
it's
language
just so
that
good.
Kenny uses in that scene is like what we would use in a politically correct way now,
Yeah, it was so
being
good. It was-
very sensitive to not, you know, discriminate against anybody. And like in 1991, Kenny's like, those queens are amazing, they're fabulous, and they're stealing our car. And I'm like, yeah,
it's pretty
they are,
great.
Kenny.
It's pretty great. I for a moment I forgot about that scene, but that reminds. So
Liza Minnelli.
congratulations to whatever lucky people
I don't-
ended up with that car. I hope that's a true story
Seriously.
because it makes me so very happy. And then there were a few other fun facts about this movie, and then there's some sad facts too. But and Dan was dropping a couple of the facts here into the live studio audience chat. So yeah, so ironically, I'm with you, Dan. Ironically, Christina Applegate was actually the third choice for the role of Sue Ellen. There was like a bunch of other people up for this. Winona Ryder was the top choice. She was actually filming not only Edward Scissorhands, but also Mermaids at the same time, or like back to back, so she wasn't able to do it. Every time, so almost every single time I do any kind of research for any of these movies, they always list like the alternate actors for these. And I don't think that there's a single one. You know what? The one exception I think that I would have been like, oh, that would have been interesting to see is Robin Williams playing Joker in 1989 Batman. But Jack Nicholson was
nobody
so
actually
fantastic
wanted
in that. So
yes.
that but I can't imagine different actors playing other roles.
And Christina Applegate is such like she's so incredible.
This was her breakout role. I mean, she was on Married
Well,
with Children, but this was
she
her
was on
breakout
Married with
movie
Children.
role.
That was her breakout. Yeah, this was her jump from TV to silver screen.
Yeah.
But an incredible woman, incredible human being. Did you know she survived breast cancer and now has MS?
Yeah. Yeah, she's been given a real rough go.
And she finished filming her TV show. What is it? Dead Like Me. Okay, Dead Like
It's
Me.
a fantastic show if you've not seen it. It's
yes,
from start to finish,
and she finished filming it after her MS diagnosis, and like going very
super slow in filming. Yeah.
Like going like obviously her illness progressed like quickly while she was filming, and still managed to pull off an amazing role.
Yeah.
And like what an incredible woman. And then I hate that people are like, oh, she got fat. Like,
yeah,
what?
She's suffering from a disease. She's
also several. She's like
permanently
immunocompromised because she went through cancer treatment and survived, bitch. What?
Yeah.
Of course you got MS. We're living through a global pandemic that triggers autoimmune diseases. Like, MS is super common for people who catch COVID. Just FYI. But like, anyway, she's amazing. I love her, and I will love her forever because she's so good at her job. She's such a professional, and she's so good in this role.
Yeah, she's incredible in this role.
My God, she's so good in this role.
She's incredible in this role. So yeah, there were definitely other actors up for this role. The character of Melissa, apparently Jennifer Love Hewitt was up for that role, which would have been interesting. Granted, she would have been. Keep in mind, she's younger than Christina Applegate, so she would have been younger for sure. But and then I forget some of the other ones. But yeah, definitely different actors up for different roles. The actor that played Zach, unfortunately, was like even at that age, and he was so young in this movie. He must have been like 13, maybe. Was suffering from like all kinds of drug addiction. And he ended up, they actually almost didn't finish making this movie because of how bad it was. And he sadly passed away at, I think, age like 25 or 26. So really, really super sad in all that, because he was a fantastic actor, even at that age. And it was really depressing to see. And again, the guy that played Kenny, his name is Keith in real life. He almost didn't get that role. And like, I guess because he was older than they were really looking for. And so he like put on a wig and came back and acted like as stoned as he could and somehow pulled off getting the role, which again, I like.
He did. I knew that stoner kid in high school.
Yeah. He's almost as good as Christina Applegate in this one for me. Because I think he is such a huge change from being just like, eye roll, like stereotyped, like, you know, obnoxious brother stoner character to like just really lovable, like from start to finish. So I think he's absolutely fantastic. I'm trying to think. There was like a few other facts. Let me briefly. As we know, my memorization has not been great lately, as I just referred to this as the Babysitters Club. So Christina Applegate had to gain, speaking of weight gain, she had to gain almost 10 pounds in order to play this character, which I think is kind of crazy. She was
she looked like 90 pounds soaking wet in this movie.
I know. I don't even know.
I'm happy
why.
they made her gain weight. Oh, probably because they wanted you know.
Yeah, they had to gain weight in other places.
Oh, that's so gross.
Oh yeah, the original title of this movie was The Real World, but then MTV announced that they were releasing their show The Real World, so they had to change the name. But the actual name of this movie caused a bunch of controversy, unsurprisingly, because people thought it was just like way too dark. Which is
pretty dark.
It's funny because it's dark, but it's actually such a small part of this movie. Like it's not the movie cover.
It doesn't
like, even
center around them covering up this woman died in their house. It
does. I guess it does center on that, but I feel like
I'm saying it doesn't. It
doesn't. The artwork of this movie, and if you're listening to this, do yourself a favor and Google search, you know, VHS cover or DVD cover of Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. But the artwork of it, like, very much looks like they straight up killed the babysitter, which is not the case. Like, she was like crazy old. She dies. It's awful. It's a crazy, awful storyline, but
it seems scarier. And there's certain parts, like, especially when I was younger, when they find her dead, it's like, this is terrible. Oh my God, what would you do? You better call the police or 911, get and of course they don't. And like, my little mind, I was like, what do you mean they don't? Like, what? There are no other options. It's like, it's scary and stressful as a kid to watch that. But I mean, obviously, they make it funny, and they do a really good job of making it lighthearted and funny. And
they do.
Yeah, and the fashion. Katie and I were saying, like, we need her entire wardrobe. Yeah, we need Sue Ellen's wardrobe because a lot of it's back in fashion. The penny loafers with tassels, the pleated pants, the peasant tops,
earrings,
it's all back in fashion. But
yeah, the giant earrings. I love I love all their outfits. I mean, not even just Christina Applegate's, but I think the characters are fantastic. I love the fashion. I love will never be a skill set of mine, but I love looking at the like sketches of fashion too. Like, there's like a scene in it where she's like sketching out and planning, and then she does this entire like amazing like runway show in her backyard, like, and pulls it all together. We should talk for a second. So we mentioned the fact that they live in this like fairly like large, nice house, but it's in like disarray. Like, it's pretty close to needing to be in an episode of Hoarders, in my personal opinion. Like, it's bad, right? And so they have this entire moment where she's like screwed. They've spent all the money, the petty cash. They're like, they don't know what to do. They're in big trouble. She's like gonna go in and admit things, and then the company ends up looking like it's gonna just be bankrupt and shut down because they've lost this big client. So she like rallies the family, and they rally all of their friends, and they're like, okay, we're gonna pull this all together. We're gonna host this huge fashion show of pitch to these, you know, important clients at our house, right? So they like turn it around. They like clean everything, whatever.
Classic montage.
Classic 90s montage. But what's amazing about this is like, so they're cleaning and they're like,
I'd
doing everything.
hire that family, by the way. Those kids,
Oh,
I
yeah.
would hire them to clean my place because they like whip this shithole together
Yeah.
and make it look like this beautiful suburban McMansion in a day.
Yeah, it's in a day. And I'm like, they're like cleaning and they like repaint and whatever else. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like I get that. But then they're like, they center the fashion show around like this like huge, gorgeous in-ground pool that they have in the backyard. And I'm like,
the kids were renovating, the little kids.
You have an in-ground pool in your backyard and you've just been like putting garbage in it? Like what what, Mom, are you okay? I feel like you might not be okay. Like
I mean, imagine you're in your mid-30s, you have 5 kids and a psycho ex-husband that is so bad that you are like your whole family's excommunicado with. Like
maybe instead of going to Australia, you should have like talked the boyfriend into coming over and like helping you with house renovations. Like,
I don't know if like it sounds like that was her first vacation ever. So I probably would have gone to Australia too. No offense, kids. Like
true story. Yeah, true story.
Whatever. 16's almost an adult. I mean, we got left home alone to babysit our younger siblings at younger than 16.
For like
and
hours. Like one younger sibling, and for like a couple of hours, not for 2 months while our family was in Australia, which you can't even communicate with them at that point. Yeah, like what are they gonna do if something goes wrong? Nothing, because they're in Australia. Yeah, no. Well, we're nearing the end, so if you're hanging out with us in the live studio audience, definitely drop in your potato ratings or other, maybe it's some kind of fashion ratings. If you're listening later, let us know what you thought of this one. But before we jump over to our review, we should share our ridiculous childhood story that we promised we would share. Rewatching this made me like really miss those days, and I don't even remember exactly how old we are. So I'm going to guess we were like 12, 11, 12, somewhere in there. I'm going to guess we were in that range.
Well, we met when we were like 7.
We met when we were, I think, like 8.
You were 7, I was 8.
Grade
specifically.
Yeah. All right, there you go.
I'm like specifically. I'm like my short-term memory doesn't exist. Long-term is perfect.
We were so then maybe we were like 8 and 9 because I think we were like Scarlett's
it was
age.
young. Yeah.
So we had seen this movie, which is probably inappropriate, but I did totally let my 9-year-old watch this, so there's that. But we had seen this movie and we totally didn't understand most of it.
We didn't understand what the word apparel meant. Like we had no definition of the word apparel. The only way we could have known what it was to ask an adult or go to the library. There was no Google. Look it up.
And we didn't, and it also didn't matter to us. We thought this company was like the coolest thing ever. And one of our friends,
we called it G.A.W.
Yeah, we called it G.A.W.
In the movie, they call it G.A.W, but we called it G.A.W.
We called it G.A.W.
General and with our whole chest, we said it's General Apparel West, and it was totally a make-believe realtor agency that we made up.
Yes. And the reason for this was that one of our friends who also played this game with us, her dad was like a powerful real estate agent at the time, what we thought or saw as a powerful real estate agent. So he had this like, she had this huge house and he had this like office. And so he had all of his like real estate like notes and business cards and magazines and paperwork. And we were like, we are real estate agents and we work at G.A.W.
So we also took like all of the old catalogs and clipped out like images of the housing and made our own listings. We had binders, several.
We had several binders. We had IKEA catalogs with furniture that went into like our houses and into our very fancy G.A.W. real estate offices.
So we made we had this whole sort of make-believe / like actual physical material. We had these binders with all of our realtor listings. We also had a binder of characters. We wrote up different characters and different character profiles. Again, we're like 8 to 10. Yeah.
And one of our
Come
friends
with us on this journey, guys.
One of our friends had a younger brother. Well, we all had younger brothers, but this friend also had a younger brother.
He was significantly younger,
though. This particular younger brother was only like a year or two younger than us. Yes. And he was a character in our pretend world because he was a good sport about this. But we
had boy characters and girl characters and would unabashedly play whichever character fancied our
Sure.
fancied us that day.
But
We
he had
did.
he had a recurring character, and because he
did.
was super super into hockey, his recurring character was a hockey player that hung out with our real estate agents,
An
and
NHL
he was
player.
named an NHL player, and he was named Guy Lafleur. And so Guy Lafleur would come by
After
and he
our
would
national hero.
and we would make brownies for Guy Lafleur in our real estate office called GA. So, you know, just in case like anyone worries that these movies are causing any kind of crisis to younger children watching, they don't catch
They are
anyone.
not.
They're not. They're not.
They're
catching
not.
it. All we thought was, wow, we can be powerful and cool too in our pretend offices.
We can be business people.
We can be
like,
business people. Yep.
It was incredible. We came up with this whole world based off of just the name of the company that Sue Ellen worked for
Very true.
in this movie. And we're like, fashion's boring. We need to work in bigger dollars. Let's go into real estate. And at one point, we even made a sort of like sub-series of this game. And it was a whole murder mystery sub-series.
Yep.
Yeah, we've
This
done
was a
that.
pretty-
We had done that. Yeah, it was elaborate.
This movie sparked a very foundational part of our childhoods that still
did.
stays out. So,
I mean, we had the whole neighborhood playing this game with us. Like, it wasn't just me and Katie being two like very eccentric children. We were like, it was. We got the whole freaking neighborhood into it. I also thought it was super cute that like Sue Ellen was this like all powerful executive assistant, and I'm like, oh my god, I grew up to be an executive assistant.
You did it.
I achieved my goals. And you know, every time I step away from work, they're like, we can't live without you. So that's very encouraging, and I very much appreciate my colleagues. Like, yeah, I'm like, I'm Sue Ellen, just not fashion. I need to bring the fashions.
You're rocking the Sue Ellen fashion right now. So
Oh, well, I'm doing it for the pod, not in real life. I'm not going to doll myself up to, you know, zoom into a meeting.
So Josh wants to know if either of us actually got into real estate. No, neither of us.
No, no, but I am an executive assistant.
Nat is an executive assistant, so she secured that, and I work.
I'm
in
a really
marketing.
damn good executive assistant.
Yeah. So it's a non-stop joke, and at some point I'll have to find. I got Nat and I these like.
I love
awesome-
Doc's Doc wrote, I know who Guy Lafleur
Doc
is.
knows who Guy
Damn
Lafleur
well,
is.
you better know who Guy Lafleur is. Everybody should. He's one of the
Obviously,
best
he's
hockey
a
players
character-
to ever have lived.
He's a character that works with the powerful business ladies at GA. That's who he
And
is.
loves brownies.
And loves brownies. He was in it for the brownies. But I'm sad to say though that I did lose my or not lose. It's here somewhere. But I bought
I
Nat
have
and
my
I
keychain.
keychains that say GA, General Apparel West. I think they
I
just say
don't
GA
have it here with me.
on them.
No, it
It
says
does say-
GA, and then I think on the other side it says, I'm right on top of that rose.
Oh
Does
yeah,
it?
so yeah, I think so.
does,
It's
yeah.
pretty perfect for us. So we
It
do
looks
have
like a classic, like
Hotel
old school
keychain.
motel
yeah.
keychain.
Motel keychain. So slow down, motel keychain. So we did it. That is Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. I didn't even ask Nat what her potato
We are
review
right
is.
on top of it, Rose.
We're right on top of that, Rose. We're right on top
Katie,
of that,
it's
Rose.
whatever you think it is.
It is. So I'm
You know
proud of
exactly
myself.
what it is.
I'm proud of myself. I went with 4. I went with 4 potatoes because we all know I wanted to put 5, and for a very long time I had 5. In fact, I probably had
5.
like 150. But then I was like, it's not really a great movie. But then it means a lot to me. So I don't know.
is.
I overthought
I
myself.
mean,
You thinking 5? I could be talked into it.
it's 5. I mean, okay, so it had such a huge impact on our lives that it's actually kind of
Here.
insane.
We'll do our usual one in the
Yeah.
middle. One in the middle. It did. It's probably
This way.
of all of the movies we've done so far, and probably of all of the movies, it had.
I didn't
it had
even
the
realize
greatest impact
how-
on our childhood. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't realize how impactful it was until rewatching it. And I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
we did all of this. I wonder if I still have one of the G.A.W. binders somewhere.
yeah. We should find it. We could put that.
I'm a bit of a sentimental person, extremely sentimental, which drives Katie crazy because she's like, you could throw out like 300% of this stuff. And I'm like, can I now? Glad I didn't get rid of these old school earrings. But-
Now we'll be way more fashionable because of all of her light
Hoarding.
Well,
You know,
Dan
the
gives this one
generational Trump.
4.5 roses. We talked Josh as usual into adding it to his watch list. So yay, Josh!
Yes,
Let us know what you
Josh.
think.
It's fun. If
it's a good
anything, the
one.
soundtrack, the
Mhm.
fashion, and just like the ridiculousness that this stuff got greenlit and was accepted. It was acceptable. It's not like Riverdale, the TV show, where it's like everything in this, nobody knows why the TV show's still on the air because it's so ridiculous. And how did that get greenlit? This is like, we're greenlighting this because we all think this is good.
Yeah.
So it's like, I, it's a piece of history.
You know
Also,
what?
if you
It
really
works.
want to see like a pocket of that like Gen X Nintendo Gen sort of generation, you see like the clear plastic phone, the posters on the wall, the if you're going to learn stuff at home, educational tools were encyclopedias, actual books,
True.
encyclopedias.
Yeah. I
Like,
love
it's a good pocket of history, you know, like it's a good time capsule.
So Josh says it made onto my watch list. So that's the rating for movies that he has not yet seen.
Good job.
And Dan, this one, I'm with you. This one's up there in the Mallrats category. This one's slightly higher than
Yeah.
Mallrats for me, just because I have so many personal feels to it. And
Yeah,
yeah, Josh, we can't talk
exactly.
about Riverdale. I'm with you. I somehow watched through that entire show, and I don't know why. I liken it to that, like, you can't, like, the seeing like a train wreck in front of you where you're like, I really shouldn't be watching
Can't
this.
look
It's
away.
really horrible, but I can't look away. That was Riverdale for me. So I'm with you.
I
Totally
do
agree
have
with
I
you.
do have it. I actually have I haven't watched all of Riverdale, but I think where
Don't.
they really dropped the ball was when
Don't.
The Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch
Oh yeah.
got separated. It ended up going to a separate network. And then there was a whole fight over the rights of airing of Riverdale, and because there was such a money fight behind the scenes about all of it, because you could see exactly where those shows were supposed to intersect, and that would have been exciting and would have made what happened in Riverdale a lot more. Oh, it totally makes sense. But they jumped the shark, screwed the pooch, and all of those other weird sayings all in one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. Ugh,
Wow. Well, we did
the
it.
kids were pretty.
The kids were pretty. They weren't 90s pretty though. They were today's pretty.
They weren't realistic
They
pretty.
weren't realistic pretty. Well, you did it. You made it to the end of another episode with us, which we super incredibly appreciate. We're like we're nearing the summer, which will bring us closer to a year and a half of doing the show, which is just incredible. So
Stop it.
thank you so much to everyone for hanging out with us, our live studio audience. Paul, if you're listening to this later, we missed you in the live studio audience. I know you had
And thanks
other
for Doc
things.
for listening.
And thanks to Doc for listening. And if you're like, what's a live studio audience? We choose, weirdly enough, to live stream our recording session because it's way more fun. So you can always join us most Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube if you want to just contribute and hang out and get to know the other incredible people that hang out with us. Or you can watch or listen whenever you want. And check out our fancy new website. And before we go, we have to play our voicemail. Hang on, I gotta find it. It's here.
Thank you for leaving voicemails, guys. We love it. Obsessed.
Okay, here it comes. Are you ready for the voicemail?
Hey, Nat and Katie, it's Joshua Turnbull here. I just wanted to say hi and that your podcast is amazing every week, and hope you're having a wonderful week. So can't wait till Thursday night as usual, but hopefully it doesn't get preempted. Anyway, just wanted to say hi, and just a quick movie recommendation for you eventually. Jetsons the movie from 1990. That would be a good one to add to your list. Take care. See you Thursday night.
And you're here.
Yay,
But you gotta
Josh!
now that you're here and we can salute you and praise you for leaving us a voicemail. Everyone should leave voicemails. You've got to tell us because our hearing is really bad because of how old we are, and we did not hear the name of the movie. So you've got to put it into the comments so we can add it to our list because we do want to hear it. I know you said it's from the 90s.
Yeah,
I'm super
Josh,
excited.
I couldn't make up what you said. I know you said 1990 and I couldn't make out the name of the movie. So if you
know.
could just pop that into our comments or
You-
or email us.
yeah,
Because
you'd
we
be
will do that for sure. Whatever movie it is, I'm down.
Whatever movie it is, we're in. Yeah. Well, we did plan out ahead of time next week's movie. So next week, Jetsons the movie.
Jetsons the movie.
1,000%.
Oh,
Okay.
I forgot about that one.
In 2 weeks, we will do Jetsons the movie.
Yeah.
Doc says, yay, Jetsons. So we're there for Jetsons. Next week, we are going to do, and I'm going to butcher this. I'm going to butcher the saying of this because I'm so overtired. But So I Married an Axe Murderer. That's next week. So get ready for So I Married an Axe Murderer. So I murdered an axe murderer. That's
no, I married them. Get your cappuccinos ready.
Get your snaps.
Your large lattes. And your
yep.
beatnik snaps. It'll all make sense next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So if you haven't seen it, you better pop it in and watch it before next week. And if you have seen it, you need to rewatch it because it's that good, and let us know your thoughts and feelings on it. So next week, I'm going to be in LA. I'm going to be in, no, I'm not going to be in LA next week, Doc.
What? When are you going to LA?
What? So yeah, I'm heading to LA for Podcast Movement. This is why the fun of a live studio audience. So the next 2 episodes, whenever they may be,
we will verify.
So I married an axe murderer.
We'll post about it on our Instagram.
And Jetsons the movie, because those sound fantastic. And Doc is making me laugh with heed newspapers now. Yeah, it's fantastic.
My favorite line is like, it's like a virtual asteroid on a toothpick.
Yeah, so good. So good.
Hey, don't worry, he'll cry his giant head to sleep on his giant pillow.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're gonna need to rate that one in amount of heads, obviously.
Heed means
giant
head
heeds.
with a really terrible Scottish accent, Glaswegian accent, to be fair, but
absolutely.
It's fairly incomprehensible. My brother and my sister-in-law went to Scotland on their honeymoon, and she's like, I did not understand a single word the whole time I was there. Yeah, but your family's Scottish and my family's Scottish, and her family, poor Emma, her family is not. And she was just like, I don't think they're speaking English. And we're all like, yeah, that's English. Just, with a bit of a Scottish accent.
True. Very true.
Love it. Anyways, get excited, guys.
Get excited, guys. It's going to be awesome. And I'm super excited for Jetsons. I think that'll be great. Yeah, Nat's wearing tartan now, so she's ready for next week. Well, thanks for hanging out. I have a ladybug that is crawling in front of my camera, so anything can happen here in the next couple minutes. So we better finish off. We'll see you guys next week. Bye, Nat. Bye, everyone.
Bye.